The notification chimed at 11:47 p.m., just as I was finally making progress on the authentication bug that had been plaguing our software for 3 weeks. I glanced at my phone, expecting another automated alert from the server monitoring system. Instead, I saw Tessa's name and a message that made my coffee go cold. "I'm keeping the baby but putting my ex's name on the certificate. It'll be easier." Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I stared at the screen for a full minute, my fingers frozen over the keyboard. Ah, there it is, I thought. The moment where my life turned into a soap opera written by a drunk Stephen King. No rage, no shouting, just this weird clinical detachment like I was debugging someone else's broken code. I set the phone down and took a sip of coffee, noting absently that it tasted like ash. Tessa was supposed to be at her friend Claire's place, working on some photography project that would change everything for her freelance career. Another lie, apparently. The stack was getting pretty tall. I opened my laptop and navigated to our shared cloud storage. Tessa had been using my account for months to back up her photos, claiming her own storage was full. "Just temporary, babe," she'd said with that smile that used to make me forget my own name. Now I scrolled through weeks of messages she'd synced without realizing it. Screenshots of conversations with Liam, her ex-boyfriend, the corporate lawyer with the perfect hair and the perfectly manipulative smile. Messages that started innocent enough in March and got progressively more graphic by April. "Aaron's working late again. Come over. He never notices anything anyway. God, you're so much better than him at everything. And my personal favorite. He even gave me his Netflix password. What a loser." I leaned back in my chair, looking around our apartment. Our chic urban loft with the big windows and exposed brick that Tessa had insisted we needed. "It'll inspire my creativity," she'd said. The rent was double what I'd been paying for my old place, but I'd wanted to make her happy. The space was decorated with her photographs, her plants, her vintage furniture finds, signs of couple life everywhere, as she liked to call it. The throw pillows she'd arranged just so on the leather couch I'd bought. The coffee table books about famous photographers that she never actually read. The kitchen gadgets for the elaborate meals she never cooked. I pulled up my phone and started making calls. "Morrison Moving Company? Yeah, I need a crew first thing tomorrow morning. Full apartment, everything goes into storage, except what I tell you to leave." "Hi, this is Aaron Walsh, apartment 4B. I need to terminate the lease effective immediately. Yes, I understand the penalty fee." "City Electric? I need to cancel service at 412 Maple Street, Unit 4B, effective tomorrow at 6 p.m. Each call felt like deleting lines of bad code. Clean, efficient, necessary. By 2 a.m., I had everything arranged. Movers, storage unit, utility cancellations, cleaning crew. I'd even found a new apartment across town, a minimalist one-bedroom that was available immediately. The landlord was thrilled to have someone who could pay 6 months up front. Then I started working on the gift basket. I drove to the 24-hour Walmart on the outskirts of town, the one that catered to shift workers and insomniacs. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as I selected items with the same methodical precision I used for coding: a wicker basket, blue ribbon, a congratulations on your new baby card, baby booties, a pacifier, and a bottle of sparkling cider. Back home, I arranged everything perfectly, added a printed copy of Tessa's text message, and wrote out Liam's address in my neatest handwriting. Then I scheduled it for same-day delivery to his house in the suburbs, the house he shared with his wife Olivia and their 2 young kids. At 3 a.m., I forwarded Tessa's text to both Liam and Olivia, along with a simple message. "Thought you should know. The gift basket is on its way. Congratulations." Then I went to bed and slept better than I had in months. I woke up to the sound of keys in the door at 6 p.m. the next day. The movers had finished at 4, taking everything except Tessa's clothes, her camera equipment, and 1 chair. The cleaning crew had just left. The apartment echoed with emptiness. "Aaron?" Tessa's voice carried through the space, confused and sharp. "Aaron? What the hell is going on?" I emerged from the bedroom carrying my last box, my laptop bag slung over my shoulder. She stood in the doorway, still beautiful in that effortless way that had first caught my attention 2 years ago. Dark hair pulled back, wearing the vintage leather jacket I'd bought her for her birthday. Her green eyes were wide with shock. "What's going on?" she repeated, looking around at the bare walls and empty spaces. "Making things easier," I said, shifting the box to my other arm. "Like you said in your text." Her face went pale. "Aaron, I can explain." "No need. I forwarded your message to Liam and his wife. They're probably discussing it right now, along with the gift basket I sent." "Gift basket?" The words came out as a whisper. "Congratulatory. For the new father." I thought it was the considerate thing to do. She sank into the single remaining chair, her camera bag sliding off her shoulder. "This is insane. You can't just what? Move out of an apartment where my girlfriend is cheating on me? Cancel utilities I was paying for while you screwed your ex? Stop enabling your lies?" My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Olivia, Liam's wife. We need to talk. Now." I showed Tessa the screen. Her face crumpled. "Aaron, please. It's not what you think. Liam and I, we just..." "You just what? Accidentally had connection while I was working 60-hour weeks to pay for this place? Accidentally planned to commit paternity fraud? Accidentally used my Netflix password to watch movies with him?" She stared at me. "How did you..." "Your phone backs up to my cloud, remember? Every text, every photo, every screenshot, everything." I walked toward the door, pausing only to set my keys on the empty kitchen counter. "The lease is terminated. Utilities get cut off at midnight. The cleaning deposit should cover the wine stain you left on the bedroom carpet." Where am I supposed to go? I turned back to look at her one last time, sitting alone in that empty space. "I don't know, Tessa, but I'm sure Liam will think of something. He's good at making things easier, right?" The door closed behind me with a soft click. I was halfway to my car when my phone rang. Olivia's number. I stood in the parking lot, rain starting to fall, and answered. "You snake!" came a woman's voice, sharp with fury. "You knew about this and you waited until now to tell me?" "I found out 6 hours ago," I said calmly. "The gift basket was delivered 2 hours ago. You're getting this information in real time." A pause. Then, the text message. "Is that real?" "Screenshots in your email, along with about 40 others from the past 2 months. "Jesus Christ." Her voice cracked. "I'm looking at them now, the photos. Oh God, the photos." I said nothing, letting the rain soak through my jacket. "I need to see you," she said finally. "I need to see everything you have." "Everything? Every text, every email, every photo? I'm filing for divorce tomorrow and I want full custody. Can you help me?" I looked back at the apartment building, seeing Tessa's silhouette in the window of what used to be our home. She was on her phone, probably calling Liam, probably crying. "Yeah," I said. "I can help you." Olivia arrived at my new apartment at 8 a.m. sharp, looking like she hadn't slept. She was smaller than I'd expected, maybe 5'4", with shoulder-length blonde hair and the kind of sharp intelligence that made her husband's law firm millions. She wore a navy business suit and carried a leather briefcase that probably cost more than my car. "You look exactly like I imagined," she said, stepping into my mostly empty living room. "Tessa has a type, apparently." "Meaning?" "Decent guys she can walk all over." She set her briefcase on my folding table. "Show me what you have." I opened my laptop and pulled up the cloud backup. Fair warning, some of this is pretty graphic. I've been married to a lawyer for 8 years. I can handle graphic. For the next hour, we went through everything. Text messages where Tessa described our private life in unflattering detail. Photos she'd sent Liam of herself in lingerie I'd bought her. Screenshots of conversations where they mocked my work schedule, my cooking, my boring friends. Olivia took notes in a leather portfolio, her pen scratching across the paper with mechanical precision. She didn't flinch, didn't cry, didn't show any emotion except a growing coldness around her eyes. "This one," she said, pointing to a particularly damning exchange, where she talks about the paternity test. "That's fraud." "Criminal?" "Civil, probably. But enough to destroy his career if it gets out. The state bar doesn't like lawyers who commit paternity fraud." She looked up at me. "You could have blackmailed him with this." "I'm not a blackmailer." "No, you're something worse. You're patient." She closed the portfolio. "I like that." My phone buzzed. Sam, my co-worker and closest friend. "Dude, Tessa's been calling the office looking for you. Says it's an emergency. You okay?" I showed Olivia the message. She smiled for the first time since arriving. "Let me guess. She wants to explain everything and work things out." "Probably." "Don't. Let her stew. Meanwhile, I need copies of everything. And I mean everything." I burned it all to a flash drive while she made phone calls to lawyers, private investigators, and what sounded like a very expensive accountant. By the time she left, I had the distinct impression that Liam's life was about to become very complicated. That evening I met Sam at Murphy's, the dive bar where our group usually gathered on Fridays. The place was exactly what you'd expect from a bar 3 blocks from the tech district. Craft beer, exposed brick walls, and enough ambient noise to cover conversations about code repositories and server architecture. Sam was already there, nursing a beer and scrolling through his phone. He looked up when I sat down, his expression somewhere between concerned and curious. "So," he said, "want to talk about why your girlfriend is calling our office in tears?" "Ex-girlfriend, and she's probably calling because I moved out yesterday." "Jesus, what happened?" I told him the story, keeping it clinical and factual. Sam's expression shifted from concern to disbelief to something approaching admiration. "You forwarded her confession to his wife?" "Seemed like the right thing to do." "Dude, that's cold, even for you." Before I could respond, the bar's noise level dropped noticeably. I turned to see Tessa walking in, flanked by Claire and 2 other friends from her photography circle. She looked like she'd been crying for hours, which she probably had. She spotted me immediately and started walking over, her entourage trailing behind like some kind of intervention squad. "Aaron," she said, loud enough for half the bar to hear, "we need to talk." "No, we don't. Please, just give me 5 minutes to explain." I took a sip of my beer and looked at her calmly. "Explain what? How you've been fucking your ex for 2 months? How you were planning to commit paternity fraud? How you used my Netflix password to watch movies with him?" The last detail hit home. A few people at nearby tables turned to look, sensing drama. Claire grabbed Tessa's arm, trying to pull her away, but Tessa shook her off. "It wasn't like that," she said, her voice cracking. "Liam and we have history. It's complicated." "History, right." I stood up, still holding my beer. "You know what's not complicated? The text you sent me last night. I'm keeping the baby but putting my ex's name on the certificate. It'll be easier." I said it loud enough for the growing audience to hear. The bar had gone almost completely quiet now, everyone pretending not to listen while hanging on every word. "You picked your team, Tessa." I finished my beer and set the glass down. "Maybe Liam will buy you a new camera as a push present." The whispers started immediately. I could see phones coming out, people texting, the gossip network activating in real time. Tessa's face went red, then white. "You bastard," she whispered. "Yeah, well, at least I know who my father is." She fled. Her friends followed, shooting me dirty looks as they went. The bar slowly returned to normal volume, but I could feel eyes on me for the rest of the night. "Damn," Sam said. "Remind me never to cheat on anyone you know." I was walking to my car an hour later when I saw it. Liam's silver BMW parked across the street. He was sitting in the driver's seat, staring at me through the windshield. I walked over and tapped on the window. He rolled it down, and I got my first good look at Tessa's ex. Handsome in that generic lawyer way, with perfect hair and a jaw that belonged in a toothpaste commercial. He looked like he'd been crying too. "We need to talk," he said. "No, we don't. You don't understand. Olivia, she's taking everything. The house, the kids, my practice. She's destroying me. Good for her. This is your fault. You could have handled this privately." I leaned down to window level. "You could have handled your dick privately, but here we are. I'm not going to let you ruin my life. You already did that yourself. I just documented it." He started to say something else, but I was already walking away. Behind me, I heard his engine start and his tires squeal as he drove off. 3 days later, I was debugging code at the office when Sam came over with a shit-eating grin on his face. "You need to see this," he said, showing me his phone. It was a photo posted to Claire's Instagram story. Liam's BMW in the parking lot of his law firm, spray-painted with "Congrats, Daddy" in bright pink letters. Little baby footprint stencils decorated the hood and doors. "Any idea who might have done this?" Sam asked, still grinning. "Probably someone with strong feelings about paternity fraud," I said, returning to my code. "Petty? Sure. Satisfying? On a cellular level." My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This isn't over." I showed it to Sam. "Liam? Probably. You worried?" I thought about it. "Not really. What's he going to do? Sue me for forwarding his girlfriend's text messages?" That afternoon, I got my answer. I was in the break room getting coffee when our receptionist, Maria, came looking for me. "There's a man here to see you," she said. "Says it's urgent." I walked to the lobby to find Liam pacing near the front desk, still in his lawyer suit but looking significantly less polished than he had in his car. His perfect hair was messed up, and there were coffee stains on his shirt. "We're going to settle this right now," he said, loud enough for Maria and 2 other employees to hear. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to lower your voice," Maria said. "This is a place of business. I don't give a shit what kind of place this is. This man destroyed my marriage." I pulled out my phone and started recording. "Actually, I think you destroyed your own marriage. I just provided documentation." "You snake." He took a step toward me, and I held up my other hand. "Maria, could you call security? I have a stalker situation I need to report." "Stalker?" Liam's voice cracked. "I'm not stalking you. You followed me to a bar. You waited in your car outside said bar. You showed up at my workplace uninvited. You sent me threatening text messages." I kept the phone recording. "That's pretty much the definition of stalking." Security arrived 30 seconds later. 2 guards who looked like they'd rather be anywhere else, but who took their jobs seriously. "Sir, we're going to need you to leave the premises," the older guard said. "This isn't over," Liam said, pointing at me as they escorted him toward the door. "Try being a man, Liam," I called after him. "For once." The lobby went quiet. Maria stared at me with something approaching awe. "Should I call the police?" she asked. "Not yet, but keep his description handy. Something tells me he'll be back." I was right. The next escalation came through Tessa's photographer friend Jax, a wannabe artist with more tattoos than talent. He cornered me in the parking garage under my apartment building on a Thursday night, stepping out from behind a concrete pillar like he was auditioning for a mob movie. "We need to talk," he said, blocking my path to the elevator. Jax was about my height, but broader, with the kind of gym muscles that looked impressive but weren't necessarily functional. He wore a black leather jacket and had his arms crossed in what I assumed was meant to be an intimidating pose. "About what?" "About backing off and letting Tessa live her life." I almost laughed. "Tessa sent you?" "Tessa's my friend. She's hurting because of what you did." "What I did was move out of my own apartment and forward a text message. If that's causing her problems, maybe she should examine her life choices. You humiliated her, in public. She humiliated herself. I just provided the venue. Jack stepped closer, trying to use his size to intimidate me. What he didn't know was that I'd been anticipating this conversation for days. Tessa was predictable in her manipulations, and sending one of her sycophantic friends to threaten me was exactly the kind of move she'd make. Here's what's going to happen, Jack said. You're going to stop spreading lies about Tessa. You're going to stop talking to Liam's wife. And you're going to leave Tessa alone. Or what? Or I'll make you. I pulled out my phone and opened the audio app I'd prepared. You know, Jax, that's interesting, because just yesterday, Tessa was telling Claire some pretty unflattering things about you. His confidence wavered. What are you talking about? I hit play. Tessa's voice filled the concrete space, crystal clear thanks to the parking garage acoustics. God, Jax is so pathetic, following me around like a lost puppy thinking he has a chance. I mean, he's useful for carrying equipment and kissing my ass. But seriously, the guy still lives with his mother and thinks his photography is art. It's embarrassing. Claire's voice responded. So why do you keep him around? Because he does whatever I tell him to. It's like having a pet that can drive. Jax's face went white, then red. Where did you get that? Tessa recorded it herself. Sent it to Liam as a voice message, thought it was funny. It's all backed up in the cloud. I let the recording continue. Tessa's voice kept going. The funniest part is he actually thinks I respect his opinion on my work. Like, dude, you take pictures of abandoned buildings and call it urban decay art. You're not Ansel Adams. Jax looked like he was going to be sick. She's using you, I said, stopping the recording. Just like she used me. Just like she's using Liam. The only difference is you're not even getting connection out of the deal. You're lying. Am I? When's the last time she paid for anything when you two went out? When's the last time she asked about your life instead of talking about hers? When's the last time she did anything for you that didn't benefit her somehow? I could see the wheels turning in his head, connecting dots he'd probably been ignoring for months. She said you were manipulative, he said, but his heart wasn't in it anymore. She would. It's what manipulators do when they get caught. They accuse everyone else of manipulation. I started walking toward the elevator. Have a good night, Jax. And maybe think about getting some friends who don't talk about you like you're a trained animal. He didn't try to stop me. The next morning, I found his car in the same parking garage with all 4 tires slashed. Not my work, but I wasn't exactly broken up about it. Sometimes karma needs a little help with the timing. Tessa's next move was more direct. She showed up at my apartment on Saturday morning, looking like she'd spent the night in her car. Her hair was unwashed, her makeup was smudged, and she was wearing the same clothes I'd seen her in 2 days earlier. I'm pregnant, she said, the moment I opened the door. Congratulations. Give Liam my best. It might be yours. I stared at her. Tessa, you literally sent me a text saying you were putting Liam's name on the birth certificate. You've been fucking him for 2 months. The math isn't that complicated. I made a mistake. I was confused, scared. I didn't know what to do. So you decided to commit fraud? It wasn't fraud. It was just easier. There was that word again. Easier. You know what would be easier? I said. A paternity test. Her face crumpled. Aaron, please, I'm scared. I don't have anywhere to go. Liam won't return my calls and his wife is threatening to sue me. Smart woman. I need help. I need someone who cares about me. Then you should have thought about that before you cheated on me with your ex-boyfriend. It didn't mean anything. He doesn't mean anything. You're the one I love. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. You want me to co-sign for a crib, I said, or just the paternity test? She stared at me like I'd slapped her. Then she started crying, the kind of ugly, desperate crying that would have broken my heart 3 weeks ago. Now it just sounded like noise. You've changed, she sobbed. You're not the man I fell in love with. You're right. The man you fell in love with was a doormat who paid your bills and ignored your lies. That guy's gone. I closed the door and went back to my coffee. Through the window, I watched her sit in her car for 20 minutes, crying and making phone calls that apparently went nowhere. By Monday, the story had spread through our entire social circle. Claire, who I was beginning to suspect enjoyed drama more than she let on, had been busy sharing screenshots and details with anyone who would listen. The photography community was small and gossipy, and Tessa's reputation was taking a beating. Her freelance clients started canceling shoots. Word was getting around that she was unreliable and brought too much personal drama to professional settings. When you're a freelance photographer, reputation is everything. Liam wasn't doing much better. Olivia had filed for divorce and was asking for full custody, citing adultery and fraud. She'd also sent copies of all the evidence to the partners at his law firm, along with a formal complaint to the State Bar Association. I got updates on both situations from various sources. Sam kept me informed about the office gossip. Apparently, Liam had tried calling our company, looking for dirt on me. Claire, surprisingly, had started texting me regularly with updates on Tessa's situation. She's staying with Elise now, Claire wrote, but that's not going to last long. Elise is getting tired of the drama. Why are you telling me this? I texted back. Because someone needs to know the truth, and honestly, I'm sick of her shit. That was interesting. Claire had been Tessa's friend since college, one of her most loyal supporters. If she was turning, it meant the situation was worse than I'd thought. What changed? I asked. Found out she's been lying to me too, about money, about jobs, about you. She borrowed $2,000 from me last month, said it was for camera equipment. Turns out she spent it on a weekend trip with Liam. Sorry. Don't be. You did me a favor. I just wish you'd done it sooner. That evening, I got a call from Olivia. Her voice was brighter than I'd heard it since we'd met. The divorce papers were served today, she said. Liam's lawyer is already talking about settlement. That was fast. When you have evidence this solid, things move quickly. He can't fight it without making everything public, and he definitely doesn't want that. What about custody? Full custody, pending a psychological evaluation. His lawyer advised him not to contest it. And the law firm? He's been placed on administrative leave pending the Bar Association's investigation. Turns out adultery is bad for business, especially when it involves fraud. I could hear satisfaction in her voice, and I didn't blame her. She'd been married to a cheater for God knows how long, and now she finally had proof. There's something else, she said. I want to thank you, properly. You don't need to. Yes, I do. You could have kept quiet about all this. You could have just left and never said anything. But you didn't. You made sure I knew the truth. You deserved to know. Not everyone would have seen it that way. That night, a bottle of very expensive whiskey arrived at my apartment, along with a note. You're not as quiet as you look. Thank you. Oh. I poured myself 2 fingers and sat on my balcony, looking out at the city lights. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is all your fault. You destroyed everything. I didn't recognize the number, but I had a pretty good idea who it was from. I poured another whiskey and deleted the message. Some gifts you just can't return. The setup came 2 weeks later, orchestrated with the kind of desperate creativity that Tessa usually reserved for her photography projects. She'd apparently been planning it for days, recruiting help from what remained of her social circle and timing everything for maximum impact. It started with a phone call from Claire on a Tuesday evening. Aaron, I think you should know something, she said, her voice tight with what sounded like genuine concern. Tessa's been asking weird questions about your schedule. What kind of questions? When you go to the gym, where you get groceries, what time you usually get home from work. She's also been hanging around Murphy's, asking the bartender about you. Stalking behavior. That's what I thought. But there's more. She's been talking to people, telling them you've been harassing her, calling her, showing up at her work, following her around. I felt a cold knot form in my stomach. None of that is true. I know, but she's building a narrative, and she's got Elise and a few others backing her up. What's the end game? I think she's going to try to make it look like you're stalking her. Set up some kind of confrontation where she looks like the victim. When? Soon. She's been acting really manic lately, like she's running out of time. Claire was right. The trap came Friday night, and it was more elaborate than I'd expected. I was walking home from dinner at a restaurant near the park when my phone buzzed. A text from Tessa. "Please stop following me. I'm scared. Just leave me alone." I stopped walking and looked around. I was on a well-lit street with plenty of foot traffic, nowhere near anywhere Tessa was likely to be. I screenshotted the message and kept walking. 5 minutes later, another text. "I see you. Stop pretending you're not there." Then another. "I'm calling the police if you don't leave right now." I realized what was happening just as I heard the sirens. 2 police cars pulled up to the curb, and I found myself in the middle of a very public scene with officers asking for my ID and wanting to know why I was harassing my ex-girlfriend. "Officers," I said, keeping my voice calm and respectful. "I think there's been a misunderstanding." The older cop, a sergeant with graying hair and tired eyes, looked at me skeptically. "Your ex-girlfriend called in a complaint. Says you've been following her, threatening her, won't leave her alone. Where is she supposed to be right now?" "Riverside Park. Says you followed her there and cornered her by the fountain." I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. "Officers, I was at Romano's restaurant until 20 minutes ago. Here's my credit card receipt, time stamped at 8:47 p.m. The restaurant is 12 blocks from Riverside Park." I showed them the receipt, then opened my ride-sharing app. "And here's my location history for tonight. You can see I walked directly from the restaurant to this street. I haven't been anywhere near the park." The younger officer frowned. "She seemed pretty upset on the phone." "I'm sure she did, but I'm not the reason why." I pulled up my text messages and showed them Tessa's accusations. These messages started coming in while I was still at the restaurant. You can check with the waitress if you want. I was sitting at table 12 finishing my pasta when the first one came through. The sergeant studied my phone, then looked at his partner. "Radio dispatch. We need another unit to swing by Riverside Park. Check on the complainant." While we waited, I provided additional evidence. My gym membership card, showing I'd been working out at a facility on the other side of town earlier that day. My work badge, proving I'd been at the office until 6 p.m. My credit card history, showing a clear pattern of activity that had nothing to do with stalking anyone. The radio crackled. "Unit 47 to dispatch. We're at Riverside Park. No sign of the complainant. Park's pretty empty except for a few joggers." The sergeant handed my phone back. "Mr. Walsh, do you have any idea why your ex-girlfriend would make false accusations?" "Officer, 3 weeks ago, I found out she was cheating on me with her ex-boyfriend. I moved out, and I forwarded evidence of the affair to his wife. Since then, she's been trying various ways to get back at me." "Has she made false accusations before?" "Not to the police, but she's been telling people I've been harassing her, when the truth is I haven't spoken to her in over a week." The younger officer looked uncomfortable. "Sir, if she continues to make false reports, you might want to consider getting a restraining order." "I'll keep that in mind." After they left, I walked the rest of the way home, thinking about Tessa's desperation and what she might try next. I didn't have to wait long to find out. Saturday afternoon, I was at Murphy's with Sam, having a beer and watching the game, when Tessa walked in with an entourage. Not just Claire and Elise this time, but 6 or 7 people from the photography community, plus a few faces I didn't recognize. She'd clearly been drinking already, and her voice carried across the bar as she spotted me. "There he is," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "My stalker," The bar went quiet. Sam looked at me with raised eyebrows. "This should be interesting," I said, taking a sip of my beer. Tessa approached our table, her followers trailing behind like some kind of intervention squad. She looked terrible, thin, hollow-eyed, wearing clothes that hadn't been washed recently. "Aaron," she said, swaying slightly, "we need to talk." "No, we don't. You can't keep doing this to me, following me, harassing me, trying to destroy my life." I pulled out my phone and started recording. "Tessa, I haven't spoken to you in over a week. I haven't followed you anywhere. Last night, you called the police and claimed I was stalking you in Riverside Park, when I was actually having dinner 12 blocks away. That's not true. I have receipts, and witnesses, and GPS data." The crowd around us was growing. Other bar patrons were pulling out their phones, sensing drama. I could see the situation spiraling beyond Tessa's control. "You forwarded my private messages," she said, her voice getting shriller. "You violated my privacy. I forwarded a message you sent to me, to the people it directly affected. That's not illegal. You ruined my relationship. You ruined your relationship. I just documented it. You destroyed my career. Your career destroyed itself when word got out that you're unreliable and bring personal drama to professional settings." She started crying, the same ugly, desperate crying I'd seen at my apartment. But this time, it didn't have the intended effect. The crowd wasn't sympathetic. They were uncomfortable and embarrassed. "You used to love me," she sobbed. "I used to love who I thought you were. Turns out that person never existed." Claire stepped forward, and I braced myself for another attack. Instead, she looked at Tessa with something approaching disgust. "Tessa, stop. Just stop." "Claire, you said you'd help me." "I said I'd help you talk to him. I didn't sign up for this public meltdown." Claire turned to address the crowd. "For anyone who's interested in the truth, Aaron didn't stalk anyone. Tessa's been lying about that, just like she lied about everything else." "Claire, what are you doing?" "What I should have done weeks ago." Claire pulled out her own phone. "You want to talk about private messages? Let's talk about the ones where you bragged about cheating on Aaron, or the ones where you planned to commit paternity fraud, or the ones where you called all of us idiots for believing your lies." The crowd shifted uncomfortably. Phones were definitely recording now. "You borrowed money from me under false pretenses," Claire continued. "You lied to our mutual friends about Aaron harassing you. You tried to get Jax to threaten him physically, and now you're trying to manipulate all of us into helping you continue the harassment." Tessa looked around the room, seeing her support evaporating in real time. "You're all against me." "We're against the lies," Claire said. "I'm tired of covering for you. We all are." One by one, Tessa's entourage started backing away. Elise was the first to leave, followed by 2 photographers I recognized from her studio. Within 5 minutes, she was standing alone in the middle of the bar, crying and drunk and completely exposed. "This isn't over," she said, pointing at me with a shaking finger. "Yeah, it is," I said, finishing my beer. "It's been over since the night you sent me that text. You just haven't figured it out yet." She stumbled toward the door, and the bar slowly returned to normal, but I could feel the shift in the room's energy. The story was out now, completely and publicly. There was no going back. Sam bought the next round. Damn, man. She really thought that was going to work. Desperate people make bad decisions. What do you think she'll try next? I thought about it. Tessa was running out of options, out of allies, out of credibility. She'd burned through most of her support network and destroyed her own reputation in the process. "I don't think there is a next," I said. "I think that was her last play." I was wrong, but not in the way I expected. The final confrontation came on a Thursday night in October, 3 months after the text that started everything. I was working late at the office, debugging a particularly stubborn piece of code, when the building's security guard called my desk. "Mr. Walsh, there's a woman here says she needs to see you urgently, claims it's an emergency." I looked at the clock. 9:30 p.m. What's her name? Says she's Tessa Morrison. She seems pretty upset. Of course she did. Tell her I'm not available. She says she'll wait. I sighed and saved my work. I'll be right down. Tessa was pacing in the lobby, looking like she'd been living in her car. Her hair was greasy, her clothes were wrinkled, and she had the hollow-eyed look of someone who hadn't been sleeping. She rushed toward me the moment I stepped off the elevator. Aaron, thank God. We need to talk. No, we don't. Please, just 5 minutes. It's important. The security guard was watching us carefully, his hand resting on his radio. I could see he was ready to call for backup if things got heated. Fine. 5 minutes. But we're not doing this in the lobby. I led her to the building's rooftop access, a small outdoor space that the company used for employee barbecues and smoke breaks. It was empty at this hour, just concrete and city lights and the sound of traffic far below. What do you want, Tessa? She pulled out her phone and held it up like a weapon. I want you to stop destroying my life, or I'll destroy yours. How exactly are you planning to do that? I've been documenting everything. Every time you've harassed me, every threat you've made, every law you've broken. I have evidence. I almost laughed. Evidence of what? Stalking, harassment, revenge porn. Revenge porn? I've never shared any intimate photos of you. You shared my private messages without consent. That's a crime in this state. Actually, it's not. I forwarded messages that were sent to me, to people who were directly affected by their content. That's perfectly legal. We'll see what the police think. The police already know what they think. Remember last week, when you filed a false report claiming I was stalking you in the park? They have that on record now. Her confidence wavered slightly. That wasn't false. I have GPS data, credit card receipts, and witness testimony proving I was nowhere near that park. You want to add perjury to your list of problems? You don't understand, she said, her voice getting desperate. I have nothing left. No job, no money, no friends. Liam won't even return my calls. That's not my fault. It's all your fault. Everything was fine, until you decided to be vindictive. Everything was fine? You were cheating on me with your ex-boyfriend and planning to commit paternity fraud. How was that fine? It wasn't supposed to go this far. It was just supposed to be temporary, until I figured things out. Figured what out? How to keep lying to everyone indefinitely. She started crying again, but this time it felt different. More genuine, less manipulative, like she was finally understanding the full scope of what she'd lost. I loved you, she said. I really did. No, you didn't. You loved what I provided. The apartment, the financial security, the emotional support. But you never loved me. That's not true. When's the last time you asked about my work, my family, my dreams? When's the last time you did something for me that didn't benefit you somehow? She opened her mouth to respond, then closed it. You can't think of anything, can you? I bought you that watch for your birthday. With money from my own credit card, which you'd been using without permission. The fight went out of her. She slumped against the rooftop railing, looking small and defeated. What am I supposed to do now? She asked. I don't know. But whatever it is, it doesn't involve me. I'm pregnant, Aaron. Really pregnant this time. Congratulations. Have you told Liam? He won't talk to me. His lawyer sent me a cease and desist letter. Smart lawyer. The baby might be yours. Then we'll do a paternity test. If it's mine, I'll pay child support as required by law. But that's all. That's all? What about us? There is no us. There hasn't been an us since the night you sent me that text. She pulled out an envelope from her jacket pocket. I wrote you a letter, explaining everything. How sorry I am. How much I want to make this work. I don't want to read it. Please, just read it. If you still want nothing to do with me after that, I'll leave you alone. I took the envelope, mainly to get her to stop talking. Inside was 3 pages of handwritten text, the kind of rambling apology that people write when they're desperate and not thinking clearly. I skimmed it quickly. The usual mix of excuses, justifications, and promises to change, nothing I hadn't heard before. "Well?" she asked. I walked to the edge of the rooftop and dropped the letter over the side. The pages scattered in the wind, disappearing into the darkness below. "Aaron." "You want to know what I think, Tessa? I think you're exactly who you've always been. The only thing that's changed is that everyone else finally sees it too. You're being cruel." "I'm being honest. For the first time in our entire relationship, I'm being completely honest." My phone buzzed. A text from Claire. "Is everything okay? Tessa's been posting weird stuff on social media about meeting you tonight." I showed Tessa the message. "Your friend is worried about you." "She's not my friend anymore. None of them are. Because they found out who you really are. Because you turned them against me." "I didn't turn anyone against you. I just stopped covering for you." The rooftop door opened and Sam emerged, looking concerned and slightly out of breath. "Hey man, Claire called me. Said you might need backup." "Everything's fine," I said. Tessa was just leaving. "No, I wasn't." She turned to Sam. "Did you know about this? About Aaron's plan to destroy my life?" Sam looked at her with something approaching pity. "Tessa, Aaron didn't plan anything. You did this to yourself." "That's not true. You cheated on him. You lied to everyone. You tried to commit fraud. You filed false police reports. You sent people to threaten him. What exactly did you expect would happen?" "I expected the man who claimed to love me to forgive me." "Love isn't unconditional," Sam said, "and forgiveness has to be earned." "I tried to earn it." "No, you tried to manipulate your way back into his life. That's not the same thing." Tessa looked back and forth between us, seeing the truth reflected in our faces. She was alone, completely and utterly alone, and it was entirely her own doing. "Fine," she said finally. "You win. I'll leave you alone." "This was never about winning," I said. "This was about consequences." She walked toward the rooftop door, then stopped and turned back. "You know what the worst part is?" she said. "I actually thought you were too weak to fight back. I thought you'd just take it and keep taking it, like you always did." "Yeah, well, people change." "Not you. You were always this cold. I just never saw it before." "I wasn't cold, Tessa. I was patient. There's a difference." She left without another word. Sam and I stood on the rooftop, listening to the sound of her footsteps echoing in the stairwell. "Think that's the end of it?" Sam asked. "Yeah, I think it is." "What about the baby?" "If it's mine, I'll deal with it, but I'm not dealing with her." Cold. Practical. We went back inside, and I finished debugging my code. By the time I got home, I had 3 messages waiting. One from Claire, thanking me for finally putting an end to the drama. One from Olivia, informing me that her divorce had been finalized. And one from an unknown number that I deleted without reading.